Good afternoon, everyone. The International Parking Mobility Institute presents today's Learning Lab, Infrastructure Opportunities and Challenges. What is to come and how to prepare? Presented by Blink. My name is Kenny, and I'll be moderating today's presentation. As a reminder, today's presentation will be recorded. We will make the recording available in a few days on IPMI's YouTube channel. Before we start, I'd like to go over a few housekeeping rules. This Learning Lab will last 60 minutes with a Q&A session at the end. We ask to keep your mics muted unless called upon. If you have any questions for today's speakers, please feel free to give a question anytime by typing in the chat. Click on the chat icon on the Zoom menu and chat window will open. Please type your questions and press send. And now it's my pleasure to introduce our speakers, Brian Gillespie, Territory Sales Manager, SemiConnect, and Consuelo Capshaw, Executive Sales Manager, Blink Charging. Brian Gillespie is a Territory Sales Manager for SemiConnect, has a vast knowledge of business economics and finance. His experience in EV charging industry ranges from his work as a clean mobility expert, managing key accounts and authoring grant applications. His passion for environmental studies led him to an industry where he is proud to provide the best information on EV charging solutions. He is focused on driving challenge through customer experience, empathetic leadership, innovation. In his day-to-day, Brian works on multi-layered audience and steers them through customer fit deployment strategies. Consuelo Capshaw is an experienced executive manager for Blink Charging. Her goals include paving the way for EV adoption through deployment and operation of EV charging infrastructure. A goal-oriented individual, Consuelo drives efficiency, promotes organizational excellence, identifies critical areas of improvement, and works to improve them. She utilizes project management skills and research to educate her clients through every step of the deployment process. Consuelo has successfully deployed over 300 chargers in the last 2 years. I'm now going to turn over the audience to my presenters. Brian, Consuelo, it's all yours.
Hello, everybody. I will start off by telling you a little bit about Blink and SemiConnect. We merged our companies in this year, so it brought our chargers into the ground of over 50,000 in the U.S. and over 423,000 worldwide. So our corporate office is based in Miami Beach, Florida, and all of the chargers are shipped from Tempe, Arizona. And as you can see, we are in 5 different countries and we are vertically integrated. Here's a little overview of our products. We do have 2 different home chargers. They are both up to 50 amp capable. We also have a commercial 50 amp and 2 commercial 80 amp chargers. The biggest difference is one has a credit card machine on the charger itself and one you can swipe your RFID card. Our DC fast chargers start out at 30 kilowatts and go all the way up to 360.
Yeah, and Consuelo was covering our wide range of EV charging products because, in this industry, we really have to prepare to provide EV charging wherever a vehicle can park. We are really at the cusp of this market really taking off and exploding. In fact, Q1 of 2022 this year was the first time where we got roughly about 5% of total vehicle sales were fully electric sales. And that 5% threshold really represents a key tipping point where the market now expects the adoption rate of these vehicles to accelerate exponentially moving forward. So we do in fact believe here at Blink and the industry at large largely views ourselves as making the jump here in the next couple of years from that early market phase as the first few folks have started driving. Now, as we get to 5% of market sales, we see that more early adopter level of buy-in from the market. But we see at the same time the billions of dollars that vehicle manufacturers are investing in developing this market further. So we expect sales again to just blow through the roof here over the next 5 to 10 years. Eventually, by the end of this decade, by 2030, we expect almost 50% of all vehicle sales to be electric. And so we have to prepare for that. And we are here to help by providing these variable infrastructure solutions for your electric vehicles. As I mentioned, the different infrastructure solutions we need to provide will vary largely based on location, budget, availability of power, and your target audience, who is using these chargers. And you may hear buzz terms in this market buzzwords like level 2 charging, level 3 charging, fast charging. And so it's important to establish what those terms mean and where they make the most sense in this market for your EV charging locations. So let's start first with level 2 charging. This is the more commercially viable, everyday charging infrastructure solution. Level 2 charging uses 208 or 240 volt circuitry, single phase power, which is generally available in most commercial buildings in America. And so we take that power, we're able to bring it to your parking space. And with level 2 charging power, we're providing the vehicle between 35 to 65 miles of range per hour that vehicle's plugged in. Now, level 2 is in many cases more cost effective, easier to access and install at properties, and it's also the more universal solution. If you notice here on this graph, the J1772 plug that is kind of silhouetted on the screen here, that is the universal plug for all EVs in North America. All EVs have the ability to connect to that level 2 J1772 plug. The one caveat is Tesla, who did make their own hardware. However, Tesla's vehicles all come with an adapter that fits the J1772. So any vehicle, any EV in North America can utilize level 2 charging. So we do want to make sure we plan for at least some level 2 charging in every project. In many projects, level 2 will be all we need. We can touch on that further. But to establish the difference between level 2 and level 3 or DC fast charging, as the name implies, this is a higher level of service being provided to your vehicle. We are pulling 480 volt 3-phase power, which is much more intensive, expensive power. But this power in turn is going to charge that battery for your EV from empty to full, generally within 30 to 40 minutes. Actually, usually it's empty to 80% in 30 to 40 minutes. Now, fast charging, since it's a much higher amount of power, involves much more planning, investment costs, longer times to complete the project, and more. However, fast charging is absolutely a key component of the larger EV infrastructure picture here in the country. You will see fast chargers at gas stations and along major highway rest stops, because fast charging is really ideal for those more road trip or destination travel trips where you do need to fill up quickly and get back on the road again. So as we go through this process, we will want to determine which solution is best for you, which is available on site, and then design our proposals, our solutions around it. And it's important to mention when we discuss these projects that there are lots of resources available to you, the customer. This is a great time to look into investing in EV charging because there is help available currently from the very top on down. You saw last year the federal government passed the bipartisan infrastructure bill, followed this year by the Inflation Reduction Act. Those two pieces of legislation have created more funding for electric vehicle infrastructure than was ever available previously from the federal government. Then lots of state governments have similar, if smaller, rebate or grant programs available. Utility companies also offer more specialized programs specific to use case in many areas. But this is where utilizing the Blink team here, the SemiConnect team, our joint efforts to know your territory, know the resources available, and help you access them is a part of our process with every project we undertake. So please make sure you contact us so that we can help you navigate the many resources that are available to help complete these projects.
Now, there are different business models to help offset or fund the cost of your electric vehicle service equipment. The first one is just that host-owned, you buy the equipment as long as you get the extended warranty, then that includes parts and labor. Then we also have something called Blink as a Service, where you're paying a monthly rate on the charger, and you still have access to 100% of the revenue. It's similar to a lease, but with an exception, you don't get to keep the equipment at the end of the lease. You either simply renew your term or we come and get the equipment. So that is a 3, 5, or 7-year agreement. Of course, the longer the agreement is, the less it will be on a monthly basis for you on the Blink as a service. Hybrid owned, these are for locations where you get the conduit, you get everything make ready. So wherever you're placing the charger, all the conduit is stubbed out from the breaker box to wherever you're placing it. And you don't have to worry about the cost of the equipment. It's a revenue share program where 40% goes to you and 60% goes to us. Now, for locations that don't have a lot of demographics in the area, where it's a new build out, then we can also look at another cost equipment revenue share of 80% to us and 20% to you. So that is the hybrid owned. Blink owned turnkey. These are locations where there are grants and rebates available, and we are able to offset the cost of equipment and installation. It's a turnkey solution, just that. We cover the cost of the installation and also the equipment. And the revenue share is 5% to you and 95% to us. Now, on hybrid and Blink owned, we will also look at the usage report and send you any electricity that unit has used. So you're getting reimbursed for the electricity on hybrid and Blink owned. Now, some of the steps for when we install a charger, we will look at the best business model that's available for you. We'll also look at different funding opportunities, as Brian mentioned, what grants and rebates are available in the area, and anything that can help alleviate and offset some of those costs of the equipment or the installation. And we will also look at a site assessment. We'll do a site assessment with you and send an electrician out to survey the land and fit the best placement for the chargers. And then that's when the site prep begins, where in making it we call it the make ready. So installing the conduit for wherever the breaker box is in regards to where you're placing the charger. Then we'll install and commission the charger. And then something that we do when we're onboarding the customer, we'll provide you with ongoing support, and we'll also do a press release if your location is public. Now, for private locations, that latitude and longitude is not projected to all of the different search engines, so it's not visible to all EV drivers. So we will not give a press release for private locations. But public locations, we want everybody to know that your location has gone green, and we want everybody to know that you're ready to have some people come and charge up at your spot. Bring a little bit of incremental revenue to your retail business. Now, something to determine when going over the different things that come along with installation. We call it the 5 Ds. And all of this is in regards to where your breaker is and where you're placing the charger. So the distance, how far is it from the breaker to where you're placing the charger? You want to keep that as short as possible, because the diameter of your conduit, the further it is, the larger the conduit needs to be. So keeping it as short as possible. So the diameter, is there additional power that needs to be made? Just making sure you're keeping that distance in mind with the diameter of your conduit. And how difficult is it to install the conduit in the charger? Is there trenching or boring that needs to happen on the concrete? A lot of this difficulty can be eliminated on new build outs to go ahead and lay the conduit before you lay your concrete. So just keep that difficulty in mind. Data. Is there data capability at the spot where you have the charger? In the event that there is not data capability, can there be a Wi-Fi signal that is pulled from your building? Now, in the event that there is not a Wi-Fi signal, that's where we will look into installing a repeater. So that repeater will project that signal to the charger. The charger itself has a modem built inside of it. So it runs off of its own data. However, when it cannot run off its own data, we will look for Wi-Fi signal. There's no Wi-Fi signal, we'll look for a repeater to install. The amperage. So if you're doing a level 2, do you have 208 or 240? If you're doing a level 3, do you have 483 phase power? So Those are the 5 different things to determine when installing EV charging. And some other ways of installation can also build a path forward. Property owners, you want to build smart and build for the future. Grid operators or in integrated utilities, make sure you are future proofing for smart grids, setting up for something called ADR, automatic demand response. So when the rates are raised, the chargers can acclimate to those different rates. Rebates and incentives, like Brian said, exploring the possibility for your respected area. So drilling down, that's where we come in. Brian and I will come in and help you drill down to your specific county, because that specific county might have utility rebates on top of the state rebate, on top of the federal rebate. So there are different rebates and grants that can be stacked. And then new innovations on also installing the chargers that go along with the 5Ds. They can be installed on batteries. So that improves or provides the grid resiliency, demand response. You can peak shave times and your demand cost efficiency. Then you can also have solar panels installed where your renewable prioritization is available. You're protecting the equipment and the drivers, including integrated lighting and battery storage integration. Those are other ways to also have EV charging installed on your property. Are we done? Okay, primary challenges and barriers. So some people might say it's going to be difficult to install EV charging, level 2 and level 3. Well, with a little pre-planning, myself and Brian are able to help with that and also make it easy. If you've planned out where the chargers are going to go, talk to your utility companies. Once it's time to turn the chargers on, it takes less than an hour to commission them. So a little bit of pre-planning helps alleviate the difficulty in installing. Obtaining and installing EV chargers is going to be costly. Well, as Brian mentioned, the grants and rebates that are available. Grants and rebates can take place from the federal, state, and county. So there are different ways to offset the cost of that equipment. We also have different business models to acclimate to what your spending is available. My location will not qualify for grants, rebates, or funding. Now, there are incentives and rebates to help offset the cost from local utilities. So not only from the state and federal level, there are county level rebates that many can take advantage of. So there's just more reason for you as the client to speak with Brian or myself to help drill down to what is available in your area and how we can help offset those costs.
Yep, thank you, Sway. And the past couple of slides, the 5Ds, asking about what the average range of an EV driver is, that's all to kind of illustrate everything that really goes into it. Even integrating batteries, solar, there's lots of different ways we can approach projects. So don't be discouraged by any of these challenges that we're discussing, because we have solutions, whether it's the renewable energy, whether it's features through our software capabilities, like something called smart load management. So this is something that we can use as needed for projects where there may be very limited electrical capacity to work with. Maybe you really want 10 EV chargers and we have enough power for 4. Maybe in this example, we want 4 chargers and there's enough power for 2. Well, we don't want to discourage you and tell you we can't get what you want done. We can use our software, our resources, and actually balance load using our program capabilities through our stations. That's another reason why the data is so important. So we can effectively share 2 plugs worth of power among 4 plugs. This is something we see used mostly in multi-family locations where the vehicles are parking and charging overnight. So while they may receive a little bit less power per hour, we know they have hours to charge. And so we can really right-size your project with your existing conditions using our resources and, again, resources at our disposal in the market to really give you a comprehensive solution that makes sense and fits your budget, your goals, everything in between. And this smart load management, the data connectivity, we refer to that service as our network platform. So the network is really an all-in-one data reporting service, allows us to implement all sorts of features at your project site, including access control, revenue collection. We get a real-time view of the real-time activity at your station, and you also get that view as well through our dashboard. We even have metrics to track the sustainability output or offset that charging an EV generates versus that vehicle going the same distance with a gas engine. We have tons of capabilities to provide these reports to other platforms, to integrate with Google Pay, Apple Pay, other popular platforms. Google Maps, you can provide these stations visibility on Google Maps, as Sway was mentioning earlier. So there's tons of capabilities, and that's why the data connection is so important, because really EV charging can be as simple as plugging into an outlet. But what we want to give you all is the ability to manage and monetize this service you're adding to make it the most impactful and the best possible investment we can for you, our client. So the network is really the unsung hero, the key that makes all the smart charging services work. And so, certainly important to emphasize, how much we can utilize this resource to, again, really give you the best possible solution, no matter what your project is.
I want to add one more thing, Brian, especially for our SEMA products and our Blink products. They both have something called ADR, which is automatic demand response, where you can go in and peak times of utility rates. You're not being charged for more than you're giving away power for it. The systems can acclimate to adjust if you want to charge more. And then they also have something called OCPP, which is Open Charge Point Protocol, which gives it interoperability on other networks. So even if I'm on the Blink or SEMA network, it's going to say, hey, there's a SEMA or Blink charger available. It's 80 amps. It's 39 cents a kilowatt hour. But if I'm on PlugShare or any other app, it's just going to say, there is a charger at the Learning Lab. It'll let me know. It still gives your location visibility. It just doesn't go into all of the logistics.
Thank you, Sway. Right, and so, we just mentioned the ability to advertise your stations on these platforms, whether it's our own network platform, PlugShare's platform, Google Maps, promoting your stations, bringing users to your stations is part of what we do here at the Blink team. So we have lots of ways to draw more attention, more users to your stations, again, to make them as visible as we can, not just physically on site, but also through these virtual platforms, making sure all that data is available to anybody who wants to use these stations. But from there, we can not only add them to visibility platforms, but we can also make them branded and customizable to your preferences. We can also coordinate with your marketing teams to promote these stations via press releases, as Sway said, social media posts, getting the word out there that you have chargers available, which is a differentiator in multifamily, commercial, parking garages. EV drivers are looking for EV chargers, and the easier we can make it to find those chargers, the better off for everybody. So we can even do branded wraps, custom design pedestal solutions, even on-screen ads are now available. So truly, we have lots of ways to leverage resources, promote your stations, and create revenue in the process. And for those who are installing our equipment, all these great resources to attract users is great for the drivers. We also want to make sure you all feel comfortable and have all the resources at your disposal to make this EV charging installation a success. And so we have resources, training videos, a whole team dedicated to support our hosts, as we call them, these locations where we install our charging stations.
that we have a resource library online. You can go to blinkcharging.com/welovehosts to see more. We'll have a comprehensive suite of resources there, FAQ guides, resources to share with your drivers, your tenants, and so anything you need will be available in the host resource library or through working with us and our team. And so certainly, again, we want to arm you with all the information you need to make this project a success. And that resource library is there anytime you need to go back and double check. And so this brings us to the end of the slideshow. I want to thank Sway. I want to thank everybody who joined this call. We'd like to keep everyone in this group to open up the floor for questions, and I know we have some in the chat already, so I'll turn things over to Kenny here, who can moderate from there.
Sure. Thank you, Ryan. Yeah, a couple questions here. I will try to keep up with this one here. We're in a 46, Greg asked, we're in a 46-unit cooperative townhouse community, it's that 60 years old, where residents have 2 outdoor parking lots with 1 stall assigned to each shareholder and only a handful of guest spots. We're in a National Register Historic District, so above ground chargers might not be approved. My interest is in the status of wireless charging technology options, where chargers would be visually hidden at grade with underground wiring. There's a second part to that question, but if you want to take a shot at the first.
Yeah, sure. Sway, I'd love to hear your input on this. And for those attending, Sway and I'm still from the SemiConnect team. Sway is still from the Blink team. We'll be fully merging here shortly, but we may have different experiences. So I'd like us both to weigh in on this one. Yes, there are some limitations specifically in historic districts sometimes that prevent some of these projects that may otherwise not have hurdles. So we have the ability to install these stations almost anywhere there's a parking space. So if it's underground and we can go underground in your garage, great. Hiding the charging stations themselves while still providing the service, we need the hardware in place to provide the service. So there may not be a clean workaround here, but this is an example where we would want to connect with you, discuss this project directly, get more information, and I'm sure this is something we've seen across the country at other locations as well. We definitely have experience we can draw from to support you through this process. To address the first half of that question, I think we can definitely still make things work. We just would need to know some more information. And key here is getting on site so we can see everything for ourselves and work with you to get a solution in place. And Sway, I'd love to hear your input on this as well.
Sure. Well, first, if it's protected land, it's not going to be able to be, you're not going to be able to alter that land in any way, shape, form, or fashion. That's protected land from the government. That is something that even you can't even put a parking space in there if it's protected land. And then as far as the wireless charging goes, that technology is being created. It's going to be very, very costly in years to come. So right now we do, between Blink and SEMA, even with our merging, we do have the most innovative, future-proof level 2 charger, which, it can be acclimated to your different rating on your circuit. So as far as the level 2 charging, we don't require any type of equipment change when you do upgrade your breaker. So that is something that you don't have to worry about in the future as far as having to upgrade your equipment, because we are at the highest level of the electric certification on a 19.2 ADM.
And the second part of that question, I think you kind of answered it. It's trying to learn the ins and outs of getting an okay from the city of Detroit to approve installation for curbside above grade chargers at the public street, figuring out bureaucracy. So the challenge of figuring out bureaucracy, which I think you addressed in your PowerPoint slide as well, is something that, go ahead, Brian.
Just nodding in agreement. Yeah, this is again, we have territory managers for a reason, and that's so that we know our areas well, we know the resources well, we know procedure well within those regions, so that we can help clients navigate these resources, the bureaucracy involved, This is certainly sounds like a project that has some additional challenges outside of what we covered today. Nothing we aren't used to. So please just get in touch with us so we can help out with this project.
And he asked, does Blink do business in Michigan, Detroit?
Of course.
Stephen asked, what monthly fees are associated with the use of chargers? If we don't monetize the use of chargers, do we need software subscriptions for your level 2 chargers to function?
Yes, you need software because of the different types of EVs, and also to allow for any over-the-air provisioning once new EVs are added onto the program somehow. So that networking allows for the different types of EVs to be programmed into your chargers, over-the-air provisioning. And there is no monthly fee on the charger. You pay the networking fees a year in advance. So you're billed yearly for the network fees.
Thank you. Greg Nelson asks, does Blink or other EV charging companies have any level 2 chargers that operate off 277/460V?
Yeah, I can take this one. And, the definition of level 2, or really the differentiation between level 2 and level 3 is the voltage we're using. So there's actually a level 1, and that's actually when you plug into a 120 volt wall outlet, which is way too slow for really our purposes here where we are in this industry. Level 2 is when we use 208 or 240 volt circuitry, and it's generally single phase power we're drawing from. By definition, when you jump to 277 480 volt circuitry, that is considered a level 3 charging project, and we treat it as such with the DC hardware as opposed to level 2 AC stations. And so we have solutions for, if you only have 277 or 480 available, we have solutions. Sway mentioned the fast chargers start at as low as 30 kilowatts, which is actually somewhat comparable to our level 2 high-end output of 19.2 kilowatts. So we have options, again, to fit the proper project. If you only have 277 to 480 available, we can still work with you. Just keep in mind, there are a couple additional caveats with level 3, including that not all vehicles have that charge hardware on the vehicle itself. So these are parameters we would discuss with you, with your project, to find that best solution for you.
Great, thank you. Emmanuel asks, does Blink offer some form of coverage for labor and parts replacement in the event of vandalism or damage?
So vandalism or damage is part of your property insurance or your whatever property agreement you have with your commercial property. No, that is not included on the extended warranty.
Right. Any more questions for our presenters today? I know one question a lot of people might have is, how is the EV industry handling the challenges posed by the current economic condition?
Yeah, no, I think that's a great question. And really, I think our presentation here today, the SemiConnect and Blink team coming together, is an example of what we are doing as a whole to better position ourselves in this market and under current economic conditions. We talked earlier about how EV demand is skyrocketing, and so is infrastructure by default, right? Well, infrastructure takes more time to get in place, and so that's why we have these resources, these webinars today to educate our clients. But on the back end, Blink and SemiConnect merged earlier this year specifically to strengthen this team moving forward. SemiConnect has been a manufacturer in this space for a decade or so. Blink has been on the forefront of pushing these hybrid ownership models to allow more people to access EV charging. They got a great footprint in the government space. So these two teams combined kind of, accentuated the strengths of each other. And so by coming together as a whole, now the Blink company has its own manufacturing capabilities in addition to offering these hybrid EV options. So truly, we are now a one-stop comprehensive solution for any EV owner, operator, host, no matter what you need, whether it's level 2, level 3, whether you need a hybrid owned option for your installation. And again, utilizing the resources out at our disposal. That is what our team is here to do, to give you a comprehensive solution in a timely manner. We also want to make sure we are able to respond quickly despite what might be longer lead times in this industry. We are strengthening our team to continue pushing this adoption forward that we all need to get to the goals that we have together.
And I'll also add that I feel like each state is taking into consideration, our economic downturn right now. So they are offering programs at their county level, so on top of the state level. So there's ways to find money in order to offset some of these costs in lieu of what's going on with the economy.
Yeah, and great point. And we've emphasized the rebates and the resources at our disposal in this space, in part because some of this is so new. The current federal administration, last year's infrastructure bill that was passed, this year's Inflation Reduction Act that was passed, new programs are coming down the pipeline from the federal government through those recent legislative actions that we are then packaging and positioning to allow our clients to utilize. So the economic conditions, yes, it is a challenge right now. We are fortunate to have the support of the federal government. Most state governments, most utilities are on board with this. So it is still full steam ahead. There is no question at this point if EVs and EV charging are a requirement. It is now, inevitable that we are going to see this transition, and we need to prepare accordingly.
Agreed.
Thank you, guys. Can you speak to maybe the difficulty of installation and what somebody should, pre-plan ahead of time?
Sure. Talk to your electrician first and foremost. And if you don't have one, we'll find one for you. The electrician is going to be your key to getting that distance, diameter, difficulty, amperage, data. They're going to be key to knowing all of those different factors of where to place it in regards to your breaker. But just off the top, your electrician and your breaker.
Yep, I would agree. Once I get a conversation started and a client is interested, the next step is let's get on site together and let's get an EC involved so we can really jump in full speed and move forward with a plan.
Great, thank you.
And that goes for commercial or residential, whether you're at your house or your commercial property. Your electrician is going to know where the closest place to install that NEMA dryer plug, where your breaker is, and if you even have space on your breaker. So the electrician, step one.
Yes, unsung heroes on many projects.
Great. Greg asked, does Blink tell the person charging when the battery's maxed out? Also, does it allow the host to charge more per minute to encourage turnover of the charger?
So Blink or SEMA Connect chargers will automatically stop. It doesn't continue to push juice to the battery when it's full. However, we also have something called an occupancy fee. So once that charge has stopped, or that session has stopped, I should say, it will send the customer a message and let them know, hey, you got X amount of time to come move your car before an occupancy fee starts. So you're not using that space as a parking space, so others can charge up.
Yeah, and I think also along the lines of this question, especially like parking garages where the longer you stay, the more you pay, we have the ability to implement similar pricing structures. We can start with billing just by the kilowatt, which is just like paying by the gallon at the gas station, but then we can kick in hourly parking fees in addition to the kilowatt rates. So I have many clients who in the corporate space want to incentivize about a 4-hour window in the morning, and then after lunch, a second 4-hour shift comes and uses that station at the location. And so they price their fees accordingly. Up until about 4 hours, it's a very reasonable rate. Once you pass 4 hours, the price jumps, and it is to incentivize the behavior we want to see and allow the most amount of people to access this service on site.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
And good. Yes, I just saw another question come in. I almost jumped on it, Kenny. My apologies.
It's all good. Alec asked, can the units detect when someone is parked but not plugged in?
So that it. Yeah, Sway, actually would like to hear how you approach this question.
So if a car is plugged in, yes, the unit can detect that somebody's plugged in. You can pull up the monitoring on your screen on your phone and see if somebody's plugged into your station. And the charger, it will automatically stop if the battery is full. But if it's plugged in, or it will automatically stop if that session is only set for $10 or 20 kilowatts, or, you know, you can set it to, like Brian was saying, by kilowatt per hour or time-based. So either one, but yes, you can still know that the charger is plugged in. If I'm driving by the Learning Lab and I pull up chargers that are in the area, and even though it might not be charging, it's going to show me that that charger is in session and not available.
Yep. And to the question, I guess.
Even if it's not charging, it's going to show them that it's not available.
Yeah, and I think we see this come up sometimes where maybe someone, kind of the example earlier, the occupancy fee. Maybe someone got a notification that their station is done charging and you need to move it within 15 minutes. Well, maybe that driver really values that parking space, doesn't want to look for another parking space. Mm-hmm. We cannot prevent them from going down to their vehicle and unplugging but not moving their vehicle, which is kind of what this question is addressing. However, we do have ways to communicate status of charge to property management, yes. Whether it's physically on our stations. You know, we have lights that indicate what's going on, whether a station is actively charging, done charging, or ready to charge. We also then have the ability, this is something the SemiConnect team has developed that will become a part of the Blink product lines as well, but we now actually are adding onboard security cameras onto our hardware, which kind of fills the gap here that this question from Alec posed. The only thing we cannot control is if someone parks and does not charge off of our stations. We cannot tow that vehicle ourselves. You could call and tow them. Right. But we are developing both those communication methods to tell property management, hey, this station is not being used and there's a vehicle parked there. That's an issue. Or we are now offering the ability to look through your station via a camera and see what's going on right at the station, even if no one's parked and plugged in at that time.
Mm-hmm.
I think a comment here is the challenge is high density areas when with fossil fuel drivers decide to park at a spot that is reserved for EV charging. Getting this problem policed policed properly is a problem.
Yeah, if you have parking guards or it's a problem for any parking area that doesn't have surveillance monitoring. So they normally have guards that walk around, or security guys that walk around, mark the tires to, show the time and make sure that they're not over their time. Same thing with EV charging. It's kind of the same type of parking area where if you don't implement whether visual monitoring or surveillance monitoring, you've got to find a way to acclimate that for your business.
Right.
Understood. Any more questions for our presenters?
It looks like Alec added additional, and Alec, as a small university, we'd love to help. So, this is where we would say, you may be tired of hearing this by now, but please reach out to us, get in touch with us so that we can help you specifically. Again, between the SemiConnect team, the Blink team, we have decades of experience in this still young industry that we can help you utilize to come up with a proper solution. And again, we are working to address this scenario specifically by developing features to support, the management of this scenario.
Great, thank you. Any more questions for our presenters? We have time for one or two more. A question some people may have is, what station is right for their property?
So there's 3 factors that go into that. Are you on 208? Are you on 240? Are you on 483 phase? And what type of property are you? Are you a multifamily? Are you a convenience store? Are you a retail shopping area? Are you residential? It would, like Brian keeps saying, talk to us. We'll figure out the best amperage for you. If you need to do a 50 amp, or if you need to do the full 80 amp, or if you need to do a 3-phase 480 level 3. It just depends on what your breaker is and what your budget is, per se, if there's not enough funds to offset the cost of your equipment.
Yeah, that's actually a good point, Sway. Specifically, generally level 2 is more cost effective, and so generally you can also get more coverage from the resources that are available to cover a higher percentage of those total costs of the project. But certainly the use case, the location, is going to be one influencing factor. As Sway mentioned, the electrical capacity on site is another huge determiner. Now, it is worth mentioning, if you do have 480 volt 3-phase power available, that's great for DC fast charging. We can also still use that and derate that power using your electrical contractor, change that 480 volt power down to 208, 240. It's a lot easier to do that than to go from 208, 240 and change it up to 480. So again, very situational, really case by case. Every site is different. 2 adjacent buildings can be 2 completely different projects. And so again, that's why we are really, really excited to get on site with you, to dive into these details with you and provide the best solution we can.
Great, thank you. And Emmanuel just asked the slideshow be available to participants. I could send the slideshow out with the host contact information after the Learning Lab. Yes, if there are no more questions for our presenters today, I will toss it back to our presenters for any last words.
Well, we just want to thank everybody for your time, and please do not hesitate to reach out, even if you just have a question. And just remember, no question is a silly or stupid question. This is new to everybody. Even our electricians, this is new to. So, don't hesitate to reach out with anything, anytime.
Agreed, 100% Sway. One thing I say all the time in this space, my job title says sales, but this is an educating role. We are educators, and that is our job, again, from the process to the resources that are available and everything in between. So that's why we'd love to get in touch with you, help you through this process, help educate your decision makers, truly be a one-stop shop, a comprehensive resource, not just a provider, but a consultant for you throughout the process.
Great. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. And thank you to presenters from Blink, Brian, and Consuelo. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Have a great day.
Bye, everybody.